Zendaya, a once pro tennis player turned coach, to her husband Art, played by Mike Faist. And as he's been going through a little bit of a losing streak, she signs him up for a challenger, which is the lowest level pro tennis tournament. But there he comes face to face with a once best friend, now turned pseudo enemy in Patrick, and they are going to have to compete together. But so much more is at stake in this game of tennis, turned wits, ego, and so much in between. So, a couple things. For one, I thought that this movie was not going to be good. Naively so. I thought the trailers told of a movie that was in a realm of something I was not familiar with. I don't know tennis very much, but I was going for the cast and Luca Guadagnino's name, because you simply do not make a film like Call Me By Your Name, or Bones and All, or the show We Are Who We Are, and not be someone that is immediately on my radar. And this is coming from someone who has not seen his remake of Suspiria. I know, I need to get on it, but regardless, I will show up for everything he is doing. But there was something that really perturbed me going in. This big studio, big budget film was expecting me to watch a watered down version of an auteur filmmaker, and that really was making me scared. But I showed up, and I'm reviewing this now having seen the film twice, because what I will say is this is the kind of movie that you're going to turn to social media as it is out right now, and you're going to be seeing so many people thirsting over it, but rightfully adoring this film. And a lot of times that can make it feel a bit bloated or overrated, kind of can make you feel detracted from seeing something or fully loving it because everyone else is, and it doesn't feel as personal. But I will go on record right now saying, no matter the amount of thirst edits for all three of these characters, which are so well deserved, this film deserves every ounce of the hype, the sweat, the internal fluids that people are going to expel onto it, you name it. This film is kind of, quite frankly, unbelievable. And I have to explain why I couldn't review this film after having only seen it once. Because as I was watching the film, I had to pee to an indescribable amount. It started 20 minutes into the movie, and by the end, every movement I made in my seat, I thought I was going to actually pee myself. And I say this, and there's context, because in any other movie, even the best ones I've seen this year, I would have gotten up to go to the bathroom. But for this film, the way it evolves, all the elements working in unison to tell this story, I was locked in. But I'm so glad I saw it for a rewatch, because my bladder was affecting my mental state. But when I was actually on a clear state of mind, you need to revisit this film. Not just watch it, but revisit it, because this is a story that is a screenplay that is unlike anything I have seen in a very, very long time. And the irony of it is that this is written by Seline Song's partner. Seline Song was the director of last year's Past Lives, a film that kind of almost has a throuple, two men, a woman, entirely different atmospheres of movies. They're on different planets. I just think that's so funny to me. But this movie is hilarious to think about, because you have a talent like Luca Guadagnino, a filmmaker who has imbued all of his stories with this idea of masking, of the person you are versus the person you project, and the pursuit of coming into your own, at least from the stuff I've seen, whether it is Queer Love or Cannibal Lovers in Bones and All, or in his criminally underrated show We Are Who We Are. These young adults in this wild moment in their life and this time period that they're in, finding themselves above the odds. And I think for a movie like Challengers, nothing like a coming-of-age story, but this is a tale about the people we say we are versus the ulterior motives we have. How outside influences can dictate and mess with what we want. How the pursuit of what we are passionate about can change the fundamentals of the person you are and the person you become. And I think, to me, this is ever so present than in the central core cast. Realistically, I see 3 performances from actors that I've heard of, seen stuff in: Mike Feist in West Side Story, most recently Josh O'Connor in La Chimera, and all of these actors are working at the tops of their game. And again, I bring up the screenplay because it has such an unconventional structure to itself. This is the kind of story whose performances influence so much of the screenplay and vice versa. As you watch, it'll be so easy at times maybe to forget or to lose track because it's jumping in and out of present day to the past, and it'll leave these breadcrumbs of a moment that feels so innocuous but is so pivotal to where they are now. And without giving too much away, the central crux of this story falls into one game, this challenger match, and it feels at first like a completely normal tennis match, but as the story progresses, the acts continue to move. You realize every swing, every point on each of their sides is so pivotal, is so foundational, because it says something, it has meaning because of what is revealed to you. But I will say, you gotta stay locked in. It's not a difficult story, but it is such a different structure to tell this story, and it makes that third act hit like an adrenaline shot to the veins. I cheered unbelievably, and this is for a sport I know nothing about. And in a lot of ways, it has everything but nothing to do with tennis. This is a film where I think in every scene, tennis is mentioned in the foreground, in the peripheral to some extent, but it's the way that the writing and the blocking and Luca Guadagnino, dude, I am so sorry. This is me just apologizing to Zendaya and to Guadagnino and to everyone involved. I should have never doubted you, no matter how much money is thrown your way, man, because this film is a powerhouse. It has editing and camera work you'll never have seen in your life. It's the kind of thing that doesn't feel like it abides by the regular rules or the kind of like strict rules of filmmaking, but instead writes its own code. These tennis matches and the way that it synchronizes up to the scenes it's cutting back and forth to feels so meticulously planned and structured and rehearsed. All of these actors trained with pro tennis players, and that level of effort, technically and literally, is in every moment of this movie. And everything reinforces brilliant performances. I loved all of them. And frankly, all 3, despite being connected by their relationship, but also their affinity for the game of tennis, are on 3 different sides of the spectrum here. One of them might want to do this for a very different reason than the other, and it's the way that they connect and divulge, and their performances. It is the kind of thing where, honestly speaking, every interaction they have, no matter who they are or what situation, you don't know if they're ever being truthful to what they're saying. And that opens the door to you as a viewer having to kind of pick up on the subtleties in their expression, but also, like I was saying, those moments in the flashbacks that are there for a reason. And when I say of how purposeful this film is, I really was wondering what was going on, because that first 30 minutes really is not as fast-paced as the last 2 acts, but as I was watching it, it just felt weird. The sound design, you will be hearing stuff spatially in another room than where the characters are at, and it just is doing things so differently. And at some point, if you are going to watch this film, which I think you need to, you have to stop questioning the why behind it, because because this is a film about a sport that requires the entirety of one's physicality. So this is a physical, more guttural, involved movie. It is a film that I think you have to experience in order to really grasp what it is that the movie's trying to do. And while Zendaya and Mike Faist, who plays this couple whose love is led by their passions for the sport, and that kind of dictates so much of who they are and whether or not it is true love at all, or just them using each other, one for the coaching ability and the other for their playing ability. The performance, to me, and a lot of it has to do with ignorance as to who they are, but Josh O'Connor took me by storm. He does this thing. Every one of them has their quirks as their characters, whether it's Zendaya's really scary, very mean demeanor with her eyes. She controls the room. When she's talking to her husband, it felt like her hand was around my throat. And I'm not trying to say I didn't like it. That's all I'm gonna say. Or even Mike Faist's timid demeanor, like he can't really think for himself, but it's Josh O'Connor's smile. There is something so entrancing about it that speaks 1,000 words, and I think that's the best thing about this movie, is it knows the importance of the visual in the visual medium in filmmaking. Because there are shots in this that seem like impossibilities, like an idea that could never be brought into fruition. There is shots showing the underneath of the tennis court with both of them on either side. The way the camera moves, the camera becomes a tennis ball. There's literal POV shots where then the actors are looking in the camera that's supposed to be the person. It is ingenuity at its finest. But like I'm saying, it is utilizing to the best of its ability the visual medium of film. And Josh O'Connor's performance in all three of them, when they engage as a trio or individually, a lot of it is just the look, the way they look at each other, what that is trying to say in the context of the moment. And that is why a rewatch opened things up entirely. That's why that first, I would say 30 minutes at first was not confusing, but I was scratching my head to the certain stylistic choices or narrative attempts that were made. Was never a flaw, but that rewatch locked in the breadcrumbs that were there to then make the meal that you eat in the last, I would say, about hour and a half. And on that topic of runtime, this movie is like 2 hours and 10 minutes, but it feels like it's only an hour. It flows, and that is through the editing, through the direction, through the script, and my God, that score. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross have always been some of my favorite composers working. I was a big Nine Inch Nails fan, had an older brother, sort of used as the gateway to get into them. Then they started working with like David Fincher, and I loved it, imbuing that sound from Nine Inch Nails into it being so dirty, but very synth and techno. And I say techno because this feels like the score that you would listen to in a club, that you would listen to when you're letting loose and having fun. I never have heard Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross quite like this before, or a score for that matter, as dominating as this. I think a score often is in the moments of a movie where you know what it's trying to say and the score accompanies it, but oftentimes the score will be placed in the most unique moments before you understand the full breadth and meaning of these scenes, these moment-to-moment interactions, and it's almost like the score is leading the charge for the performances, for the scenes themselves. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. It's loud, it's bombastic, it's groovy, and when it gets dark, it has these moments that utilize jazz in these wild ways. But needless to say, this film, indicative of the way that it implements the score, does things that I've never seen before. Categorically, we've had throuple movies, not enough in my opinion. You've never seen anything like this. You have sports movies, never seen anything like this. You have movies with climactic last 10 minutes. Superhero movies have never come close to touching the candle of light that this movie illuminates in those last 10 minutes. My heart was racing. Everything came to a head, and by the end, friend and I turned to each other and said, this might be the greatest movie ever made. I don't think it's the greatest movie ever made, but it's the kind of movie that overtakes you in the moment that'll honestly make you believe it is. Quite frankly, we are being treated countlessly to some wonderful pieces of filmmaking, and we're only in April, the end of April. We're not even halfway through the year yet. We're getting movies like Dune Part 2, Civil War, this, The First Omen, Late Night with the Devil, Monkey Man, all of these movies that are so good. This is film as an art form being pushed to its absolute limits in ways you've never felt. You are going to be there viscerally in the moment-to-moment feelings that these characters have. You are going down this rabbit hole in full form. It's sweaty, it is erotic, it is sexy, it's manipulative, it's seductive. It is going to take you on this Flavor Town journey, and that journey itself, that bus, that train that it drives you forward on, is an unbelievable positive A+. Dude, movies have never been more back, and I say that in every sense of the word. I love this film so much, and quite frankly, I've seen it twice. I'm literally hours after the second rewatch. I want to jump back into this movie. Luca Guadagnino, this guy, I hope he never stops making films. The cinematography, as an M. Night Shyamalan diehard, knowing this DP is working on Trap, dude, I cannot believe it. This is a monumental piece of filmmaking that we are going to look back on in the subsequent decades after and see it as a landmark for so much. I hope I manifest. I hope I'm right when I look back on this video. Please make this movie succeed so we get more erotic, sexy, so well-made movies. Please. Above everything, though, let me know of what you thought about Challengers down below. What was your favorite moment without spoiling it? What was your favorite performance? I think all of them are terrific. They're doing such different pieces of work, but Josh O'Connor stole my heart. Dude, that man is so sexy. And seriously, please, thank you so much for watching. If you got to this point, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And please, feel free to follow me on Letterboxd. Trying to put more effort into my reviews and logging. It's just a nice push when you guys join me on there. It's a great app. And above